Is killing bad under all circumstances, period?
No.
Okay. Can you elaborate? What circumstances is killing somebody that doesn't want to die?
Well, in a war, let's just say a war. So we're attacked by a foreign power who wants to enslave us. And so
That would be terrible.
And so rather than have that happen, we go out and try to kill those guys and send them back to wherever they came from.
And that would be in self-defense, right? I mean, in a grand scale, right? We're saying
that's what wars are about. And that's okay because there are bad guys out there, and you got to you can't be so high-minded that you become a slave or dead.
I totally agree with you. So, like, if we were on a desert island, and the only thing I could eat is another human being, and the only way I could eat that human being is by killing him or her first, then that would justify, like, my choice is between killing this person or dying myself. That could justify me killing that person, right?
In your mind, yes, a person could reach that conclusion. I'm not saying
it's a terrible situation. It's not a likely situation. Great. So same with an animal, right? If I was in a survival situation, the only way I could live is by killing an animal. It'd be better for me to kill the animal than for me to die and let the animal survive, right?
That's true.
But in the situation we're talking about with killing these animals in slaughterhouses who don't want to die, is that the same thing as self-defense, or is this a different type of scenario with the killing?
It's a different type of scenario. It's and some people reach the conclusion they will be vegetarians and they won't do it. And then there's other people who say no, this is natural, and it has been. It is natural. It's done all over the world. This is part of being a human, just as other animals eat other animals. That wolves eat deer or whatever.
And what happens to the wolf if it doesn't eat the deer?
It's got to find bunny.
It's going to die, so that's an issue of survival, right? So if the lion doesn't eat the gazelle, the lion starves. Right. So therefore the lion is justified in eating the gazelle.
Right.
So if the human goes to the grocery store and doesn't buy prepackaged chicken, beef, pork, and chooses to buy plant sources instead, is that person going to die?
No. You can be a vegetarian and live a long time, maybe longer.
Absolutely. So could we say that meat eating in modern Western society is not necessary?
It's not necessary to live. It's a matter of choice.
I totally agree with you. So every time we go to the grocery store, we make a choice, right, as to whether or not we want to kill somebody by buying meat or supporting the industry that kills unnecessarily, causes unnecessary suffering and death to animals that don't want to die, or we can choose to buy things that don't cause unnecessary suffering and death to animals, right? We have that choice.
Yes, well, we have the choice because let's just say nobody ever bought pigs, for instance. Well, nobody would ever raise pigs, and we wouldn't have them just running around, so there would be no pigs. So that pigs, we wouldn't have live pigs even to think about.
Exactly, because we wouldn't be breeding them, right? We wouldn't be breeding them.
No. And chickens and everything else. They are raised to be killed, and so
to supply our demand for animal flesh. Correct?
Exactly. That's right. And so if there could be a world there could be a world without cows and pigs and pheasants and whatever fish.
Yeah.
We'd be vegetarians because there wouldn't be anything out there to eat except ourselves.
And we could actually become vegan. Are you familiar with that term?
Yeah.
So we don't the three of us are all vegan that are standing here. We don't consume any animal products or wear them or anything because of these very moral issues that you brought up today about believing in the suffering, the unnecessary suffering and death of animals can be avoided, or that we can interrupt the supply and demand chain by not providing. Is this an interesting topic to you?
It's not tremendously, but I mean, I'm about 5 days a week. I'm a vegan.
Oh, you are?
At noon, because I go over to the restaurant over here, Cooper's Tavern, where they have the most delicious tomato soup. And I have tomato soup for lunch and a piece of bread and butter, and that's what I eat for lunch. It costs $5, including tip.
It's a delicious vegetarian meal, but actually not vegan because of the butter. The butter comes from a cow, right?
Well, yeah, but then it doesn't kill the cow.
Oh yeah. So are you aware of the dairy industry at all? And like, is the dairy industry actually? Yeah. So you're aware of it. And that was probably the wrong question. So the dairy industry actually is in some ways actually even more cruel than the meat industry with how it produces its product. And all dairy cattle end up being ground up into ground beef.
That's true.
Yeah. So and the baby cows are taken away from their mothers at birth because we want to take their milk. They're taken away, separated within less than 24 hours of their birth. The males are killed and turned into veal.
What do they feed baby cows?
They feed them, they have like a formula substitute that's like soy and corn and rice based, as far as I understand. Yeah, so, it makes sense because we want to drink the cow's milk. So the baby calf can't drink the cow's milk. So they're separated at birth. And the males that have no use to the dairy industry because they can't produce milk are killed at a very young age and are harvested for veal. And the females are hooked up to the same machines that their mothers are, and they're forcibly impregnated over and over and over again throughout their life until they can no longer produce milk, which only takes about 4 or 5 years. And a cow's natural life cycle is about 25 years. And then they are sent to the slaughterhouse and slaughtered. So they live a life of horrible torture. And actually, where they impregnate the calf, the dairy industry actually calls that a rape rack. They actually refer to it as a rape rack, where they stick their arm up a cow's anus and they artificially inseminate it with bull semen. So,
vagina,
yeah.
not the anus.
Well, they stick their hand up the anus to stimulate the vulva so that they can get the,
I see, okay.
So that they can get the injection up the cervix. So that's what happens in the dairy industry, and this is just standard practice. There's no way to produce dairy without separating a baby from its mother. So the egg industry is just as bad as far as that. They kill all the baby male chicks at their first day of life, and they live a horrible life of cruelty and suffering, and then they're turned into chicken nuggets. So this is not a good practice, and vegetarianism does not absolve you from sort of the animal cruelty issue. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I agree that I would find it personally very difficult to own one of those chicken operations. On the other hand, it produces eggs at a very efficient cost, so that poor humans can afford them. I mean, if I'm a fairly well-to-do guy, so I could always afford eggs, but poor people probably should have eggs too. So this allows poor humans to have eggs. So there's probably more than one side to it.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, we have a problem with hunger in this country and also throughout the world, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the food that we produce on this planet, like about 70% of the food that we produce on this planet, goes to feeding livestock. We kill 150 billion land animals a year for food and for dairy and for eggs, and all of those animals eat. So 70% of our current plant agriculture goes to feeding these animals. Do you think we could maybe feed these people plants instead of feeding them eggs and maybe feed a lot more people in the world?
Well, after I die, you could try it.
Well, what if, and I'm just going to ask you something, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. What if you tried to make your actions match your values a little bit closer, and you consider maybe trying going vegan for like a month? And we have some really nice pamphlets here that we could hand you just to maybe think about maybe some future choices you could make. It's really not that hard. You live in an industrialized society, a Western country. You said you have money, and you can go to the grocery store and just choose to buy plant-based burgers instead of buying animal-based burgers. We have Beyond Burgers. I don't know if you've heard about that. They have them at the Willie Street Co-op. They taste just like ground beef. I just fed a whole bunch of those to my family, and I asked them directly, I was like, do you know that you're eating plants instead of animals? And they didn't know the difference.
I'm not going to do it. No. I mean, I have no interest in doing that. I don't find the system we have now so revolting that I would change things. And I can tell you something. My little wife, Mary, of more than 50 years, would be just totally distressed if I didn't eat her cooking the way she cooks it. So there's no sale in the Mose family.
So would you say that you value your own personal convenience and your own personal taste over the life of another living being?
a living animal,
Living being, living sentient being, animal, whatever.
insect, all of them. I mean, yes. Yeah, I mean,
Thank you for your honesty.
that's true. I mean, I do not consider the way we live here as immoral. I mean, I think we should be. I do hate to see. I mean, I empathize with cows in the way they're now in the industrial situation. It was much back when they took them into the barn and milked them by hand and everything else, and the farmer was out there with his cows, and it seemed more sweet to me than this. But this also allows people to have milk that probably couldn't afford it if we were doing it the other way. So, I kind of have to sign up with the human side of this too.
Are you aware, though, that we have plant-based milks, like made from soy, made from rice, made from coconut, like coconut milk, rice milk, soy milk, hemp milk, oat milk? We have all these different substitutes now that don't have a body count, that don't involve killing.
Well, this is a market. So if the people who make those things, can sell them, it'll happen naturally. You won't even have to worry, because people say, boy, I like this soy milk a lot rather than the regular milk, and it's cheaper too. I'm for this, so that's the challenge for the people who make these alternatives, get them down cheap enough and good enough. And there's a lot of things people used to eat that they don't now because they found something better.
Precisely. So maybe you can ask your wife, hey, next time you go to the grocery store, can you pick up some soy milk?
I don't think I'm going to mess with that.
I mean, you could also buy the dairy milk, but hey, let's try the soy milk.
Deal I've got. Let me tell you something.
You don't want to mess. You don't want to rock the boat.
Look. I have to say, I just when I found little Mary McKenzie in 7th grade, I struck gold, and I'm not going to screw.
Congratulations, by the way, 50 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, so thank you.
I just had my first wedding anniversary, and we have our first kid on the way. And he's being raised 100% vegan.
Well, look, I'll tell you something. With you as a parent, I'm sure they're going to turn out to be a very good person.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time today. And actually, we do have a couple pamphlets if you're interested. Checking out What is Speciesism. Give it a read. See what you think.
I'll read it.
Maybe talk to your wife about maybe. Hey, let's try these Beyond Burgers. Let's just see what they're all about.
Okay.
You might like it. Well, thank you for your time.